Okay, so let's talk about conductors now. This is Romex. This is what you're going to find in most residential applications. Okay, usually white, sometimes it may be yellow. It comes in different gauges, different sizes. 14, 12, and 10 are your most common in the house. Remember, the smaller the number, the larger the wire. All Romex is going to be solid core, and it has 3 conductors in it, or 2 conductors and a ground. This is a pair of wire strippers and wire cutters. Okay, so you can cut, boom, cuts nice wire. You go ahead and strip off the outer edge. Okay, we're going to go ahead and cut this off and do a little demonstration. Boom, cut the outer edge off. All right, you can use they have tools where you can just strip it. It opens that up. Usually I just do a little, or you can use a pair of, or use a utility knife and just slice it. Got to be careful. I usually just open it up a little bit, pull out that copper ground, grab it, and then you can pull and it will strip it how you need it. All right, so this outer jacket, and this is a jacket, not insulation. This outer jacket has a bunch of information on it. It's kind of hard to see because it's imprinted, stamped in there, not so much with ink. Tells you the size, the type of material it's made from, the insulation. There'll be a little bit of paper inside wrapped around that conductor. Okay, you'll take it off, strip all that off. Take this down, use the cutter. Okay, so now you're left with your conductors. Okay, your hot, your black is always your hot wire. Your black is always your hot wire. Your white conductor is always your neutral, and then your bare is going to be for your ground, bare copper. I don't know if you can see. You can see on here how each one of these, there's little holes in here where when you close them together, they're the size, they will give you the size wire. I'm trying to see if we can get a little bit of focus in there. Doesn't appear so. Okay, so you put, to strip these, you put the conductor in the right size. This happens to be 14 gauge wire. You'll put that in there, clamp it. Do not clamp it in there and do all this twisting around like that. You're going to score the wire, and if you have a inspector that's a little anal retentive, he'll fail you on that. So you just want to put it in the right size. You clip it, it will cut all the way around. You just gently release it just a little bit and then push with your thumb. You're holding the wire with your hand and you push the tool away with your thumb and it will pull off what you stripped. It'll pull off what you stripped. Okay? So this is solid copper wire, and that's stripping. Okay? And you'll get a chance to do that when you get back in. Remember, everybody gets a tool bag when you graduate and gauges. Okay? So this is Romex wire. Okay? So this is called UF. Romex wire is strictly for indoor and it's strictly for residential. Okay? You will not use this outside. This jacket, this material right here, will deteriorate if it's left out in the sunshine. Okay? It will literally, after a few years, just crumble to dust. Okay? So you don't use Romex outside at all, ever. This gray is called UF, okay, for just that. Again, instead of a jacket that you can just peel away once you cut it, and the wires, the conductors just kind of sit inside the jacket like that. With UF wire, the wire itself, the jacket itself, is molded around the conductors. It's molded around the conductors themselves. So when you take the jacket off, you've got to be extremely careful that you don't nick the insulation getting this off. It's very, very easy to do, and then you'll have if you're not careful, okay, and you nick that, that could pose a electrical short or a ground problem or electrocution. This could short out on a panel box, it could short out on a piece of metal. But again, it has the same conductors. I'm not going to pull this off here, but there's white in here. As you can see, this one here is black, okay? And let's put that back on, don't want to lose that. And we have the bare copper for your ground, okay? This you can use outside or underground, okay? This is UF wire, and as you can see, this is a little bit higher gauge than what we were using on our Romex. You do it, the Romex does come in this size. Romex will go all the way up to, I believe, 10 wire, size 10. Let's go back to that for just a second, okay? When you get a spool of wire, wire is described with two numbers. It'll either be, the first number will tell you the gauge. The first number will tell you the gauge. Let's pull this up just a touch. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that. Bit of bang. Okay. All right, so wire is described in gauges, or gauge. So if you have the first number will be the gauge of the wire, and the second will be how many conductors. And the second will be how many conductors. Yeah, I know, I'm fired. Okay, so 10-2 will be 10 gauge wire and 2 conductors. You do not take into account the ground wire, okay? Just the conductors, just the conductors, just the conductors right here. This is not part of this. So you have 10 gauge wire and 2 conductors. On some of them, so you could have 14-2, 12-2, 16-2, okay? Now, on some applications, you'll have 3 conductors, and that could be 10-3, plus the ground, okay? Plus the ground. So let's talk about some of the other wires that you're going to have a little bit in contact with. Okay, so there we go. Let's get that out of the way. All right. This is armored cable, or you may hear it called BX or MC. All right. This is used in a commercial application. You can see that instead of a rubberized or plastic jacket, it's in a flexible metal conduit. Okay? You have 2 conductors and a ground. In this case, the ground is actually insulated with green. It's not bare, it's green. This takes a special cutting tool to be able to cut these off in the right size, to be able to strip this back, to be able to use it. BX-MC cable. This is thermostat wire. Usually it has a brown jacket and a number of conductors on the inside. This particular one has 5. And we'll get into why they have so many when we get into the thermostat. Okay? So you have a brown jacket. Never been sure why this little piece of fuzz is in there. It always gets in the way. And you have 5 different conductors. These colors actually mean something. Okay? You have a red, a yellow, a white, a green, and a blue. This is 18.5. This is 18 gauge wire. It's solid core wire. Okay, solid core wire. We strip that off. And this is thermostat. This is for your thermostats. It may be, so this would be considered 18.5. Okay, 18.5 wire, like the others were 10.2, 10.3, 12.2. This is 18. Remember, 18 gauge, 5 conductors, 18.5. And we'll get into what these colors mean when we get to the thermostats in our components section. One more other type of wire that you have. This is called connector wire or connection wire. Okay, so this comes in different sizes. You may use this to connect different pieces of different controls. This is, as you can see, it gives the description on here. You can go on the chart, and this THHN in the National Electrical Code, you don't really have to worry about that too much right now in your career. The 14 is going to give you the gauge of the wire, so it's 14 gauge, and it's stranded. CU is the periodic table symbol for copper. CU is copper. So this is 14 gauge stranded copper. And we're going to cut that off and go ahead and strip it. And we'll show you what we mean by stranded. Boom. See how easy that was? You guys will get the hang of it. As you can see, this is stranded copper. Okay? A lot of little bitty thin pieces of copper in here, but they're twisted together and then covered in this insulation. Okay? Stranded copper. Stranded copper, solid copper. Okay? Solid, stranded. And that's pretty much our conductors in a nutshell.